Here we go, kicking off the live broadcast day on Real America's Voice, MTN, and reaching a global audience. This is the Steve Gruber Show, and remember, this could trigger real enthusiasm for the country, a no panic zone. Here are the three big things you need to know this hour to get rolling into your day. Number one, the United States now confirming a third round of talks with the nation of Iran on eliminating nuclear weapons from its future. It looks promising. We'll keep you posted. Number two, we now learned Pope Francis suffered a major stroke early yesterday before falling into a coma and suffering a heart attack. In the end, the 88-year-old could not take it and passed away. And number three, look, this isn't going to make some of you happy, but we have to tell the truth here and dig a little deeper to make sense of things. And right now, the economy is having some really rough days, to say the least. Let's start with this. The U.S. dollar not looking too good. It slid to 97.9, its lowest rating in the last 3 years. 100 is where you want to be. Gold continues to surge, setting all-time records every day. Since 2023, gold has gone from $1,800 to almost $3,500 an ounce today. It's almost doubled. Not a good indication for the dollar. That's in 2 years. Your money would have doubled. What does this mean? Well, Steve Forbes says it's not good news. Here's what he says.
It's hugely concerning, especially the price of gold tipping over $3,400 an ounce. That means the dollar is weakening, and that always leads to future inflation. Since 2023, the gold's gone from $1,800 to $3,400 an ounce. That's a sure sign we're going to have a weak dollar ahead, which means ultimately turbulence and higher prices in the marketplace. Just look at the 1970s, and we can see where that leads unless something is done about it now. But I don't see any sign that the authorities have any idea constructively of what to do, sadly.
So what happened in the 1970s that Steve Forbes is so concerned about? Well, that's when the U.S. first abandoned the gold standard under President Nixon, and the dollar plummeted. Oil crises under OPEC and the Iranian Revolution at the time drove energy prices through the roof, and inflation peaked at 13.5% in 1980, with the consumer price index going up over 90% over the course of the decade. That's 90% of inflation over the course of the decade. It was a terrible time. And the U.S. was battling a similar trade deficit as it is now with China. But back then it wasn't China, it was Japan and Germany. It's not a good time. Trust me, when I grew up, it was not a good time. Lots of people lost jobs. It was a tough time getting through. So how do we avoid it? I don't have those answers. I do think the concern is growing by the day. On the oil front, President Trump campaigned on the promise of drill, baby, drill. American energy independence could give us a leg to stand on while trying to avoid the 70s meltdown. We're still looking at around $60 a barrel this week compared to over $80 a barrel just a few weeks ago. So that's good news. Energy prices are coming down. Last month, we saw the first monthly decline in prices by way of the Consumer Price Index in about 5 years. But the experts, whatever that means, say not to get too used to it while the trade war with China continues on. Forbes says we've got 90 days before the edge of the proverbial fiscal cliff. Here he is again.
How long do you think before consumers feel prices start to rise significantly?
Well, you're going to see it in the next 60 to 90 days. The big thing right now is with China, with those 145, 245, pick a number of tariffs that are out there. I don't think you're seeing a lot of inventory and buying from that. They're all waiting to see if those rates can be reduced. But in terms of the tariffs that have already been in there and the uncertainty that it's created, there has been people buying in advance. And so if we don't get this thing resolved in the next 90 days, you're going to see prices having to go up because people aren't going to stop trading, and they're going to have to buy certain things. And so how the president's supposed to get massive trade deals done in the next 90 days, we'll see. I think you're going to see a lot of cases where there'll be some deals, they'll highlight it and give extensions to the others. But the uncertainty is a killer, and people are holding back. So I don't know what effect that'll have overall on prices, but it will lead to a slow economy, perhaps a recessionary economy unnecessarily.
And there you have it. True to form, President Trump feels much more confident in his negotiation tactics than does Steve Forbes. This is the prediction he made just last week. Here he is.
Talking with everybody, you know, the problem is it's only so many hours in the day. I think we're going to make a deal with China. We're going to make a deal with everybody. And if we don't make a deal, we'll just set a target, and we'll live with that, and it'll be fine too.
How much time do you think?
I would think over the next 3 or 4 weeks. I think maybe the whole thing could be concluded. You have to understand, we're a big, if you think of us as a big, beautiful department store before that business was destroyed by the internet. We're a big, beautiful store, and everybody wants a piece of that store. China wants it, Japan wants it, Mexico, Canada, they live off it, those two. Without us, they wouldn't have a country. And everybody wants a piece.
Everybody wants a piece. Now, let me tell you this. China cannot survive without our markets. It's that simple. The question is, how long can they hold on? How much pain can they inflict on us and the American consumer between here and there? I don't know. President Trump's done it before. In 2018, Trump and Xi sat down and committed to hammering out a deal in 90 days after a similar trade war like this one. It became known as the U.S.-China Phase 1 deal. China committed to increasing its imports of U.S. goods over the next several years to the tune of $200 billion over the next couple. Two problems. The COVID pandemic showed up by way of China. And second, the Biden administration was left to enforce the agreement, so it didn't happen because the Biden administration, is what it is. China ended up only achieving a 58% target of what had been agreed to, 58%. You see, China's a cheat. President Trump has his work cut out for him. There's no question about it. Here's a guy, investor Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful, says the U.S. can't be tough enough on China. He's willing to pay whatever the price of these negotiations is. Of course, he's got a little more breathing room, to say the least, but here's what he says.
They cheat, they steal, they don't play by the rules, and I've had enough. And so I would like this thing worked out. I don't care about the volatility. I don't care if Trump ratchets it up 25% a day.
What do you mean?
But
Wait, Kevin, what do you mean you don't care about volatility if volatility has a direct impact on us as the consumers?
Because we have to fix this problem once and for all. It's killing us. It's killing small business in America. It's killing large businesses. All the IP these guys steal. You go back and look at all of their technological advancements, and this is a personal estimation, you're going to find source code from American companies back 4 decades ago. These guys don't play by the rules. And administration after administration, whether it be European or American, have not dealt with this. It's enough. We've got to solve this problem.
Okay.
Now, if we have to squeeze Chinese heads to the wall, as I said yesterday when I was testifying, so be it. I'm willing to live with the volatility to get the long situation settled. I want to compete in China. I want to open up those markets.
Look at that guy from MSNBC squirm in his seat. He doesn't want that answer. He wants the answer that Trump's awful. It's all Trump's fault. No, it's painful. It is. Gold at $3,500 an ounce will be today or higher. Could go to 4,000. Could go to 5. Some people predict 5,000. I don't know. I'm not a commodities trader. Wish I had a lot more gold today, I'll tell you that. I don't, but I wish I did. Maybe you do too. Look, we're going to square this up after the break. More from Mr. Wonderful and the economy right here on the Steve Gruber Show. Glad you're here. Remember, you've got one assignment today. Follow me on Facebook. Watch us on YouTube. Hey, we're live on Facebook today. There is that if you want to check out a new feed. I'll be right back. All right, back to it. I'm glad you're here. Mr. Wonderful says he doesn't care. You heard him before the break. He doesn't care about volatility. And he's right about the fact that the U.S. needs to deal with China at some point. But the average American consumer doesn't have the same financial buffers that Kevin does, obviously. They're the ones headed to the polls next year, of course, in the midterms. In many respects, the U.S. holds a lot of the cards in these negotiations, if not all of them. Our economy is larger. China needs our markets, but this is becoming a very high-stakes game of chicken. Who's going to give up first? And what will it mean for the American consumer and the economy in the meantime? You see, Xi cannot blink. He can't in China. I don't think Trump can either. China expert Gordon G. Chang, good friend of this program, says things, however, are not as bad as some say. Here he is.
We actually have an experiment, and that was 2018 when Trump imposed 25% tariffs on China. We know that China absorbed at least 75 to 81% of the cost of those tariffs. The American consumer didn't feel it. And by the way, we tend to think of tariffs as a bilateral matter. When we impose tariffs on China, we think in binary terms, U.S. and China. But we got to remember that when we impose tariffs on China, companies move supply chains and production out of China, to areas which are lower tariffed. So, yeah, we didn't feel it in 2018. Now's a different situation. But I think that if Trump is able to do what I think he can do, which is stitch up these trade deals with other countries, we're going to see a redirection of trade, and the American consumer is just not going to feel it. But there's a more important point. For decades, American presidents have pursued deeply injurious trade policies with China, and we're going to have to pay some cost. It's just, I think that's inevitable. I don't think the cost is going to be as great as all the smart people in New York and Washington think. But even if it is, this is a cost we have to pay, because if we don't pay this cost, we become a vassal state of China. And so I just don't want to see that.
Of course, nobody wants to see that. Sheng mentioned there on Epic TV, the circumstances are a little different this time around. A little more intense, to say the least, but White House National Economic Council Director Kevin Hassett is also painting a much more optimistic picture of what is coming around the pipe. Listen to this.
You're saying there's 100% no chance of recession.
Right now, the data are so strong. You've seen the jobs numbers. And we also, as you know, when we're in the White House, we get to talk to CEOs and say, what are you seeing with your orders and so on? And people are really actually euphoric that things are moving way better than the media would have you believe. And so I'm not saying that you can't have a GDP number that's a little bit disappointing or surprising. GDP now still thinks that Q1 is going to be weak. But if you look at the blockbuster jobs numbers that we've been seeing and the low inflation, which takes all the pressure off for the Federal Reserve to be worried about they're going to have to act because of inflation, that it's really a sweet spot of growth right now. And I think it's going to be even better in the second and third quarter because Trump policies will be in place. But with the jobs numbers booming and people saying that they're seeing strong sales anecdotally, I don't see a recession at all.
Yeah. It's Hassett's job, of course, to instill confidence in the president's agenda. So take that for what you will. But I have faith in the president as well. That's why we voted for him. But there's still concern over what's happening to the dollar, to the price of gold, to the economy. The Federal Reserve is responsible in many ways for the shaping and the supply of the U.S. dollar and interest rates, of course. And President Trump is turning up the heat on the Fed. Yesterday, Trump called Fed Chair Jerome Powell a major loser for not cutting interest rates yet. He wrote, quote, "With these costs trending so nicely downward, just what I predicted they would do. There can be almost no inflation, but there can be a slowing of the economy unless Mr. Too Late, a major loser, lowers interest rates now." Europe has already lowered 7 times. A slow economy is exactly what Forbes is warning about. But whether Powell will heed Trump's advice, unclear or even unlikely. The Fed is supposed to be independent from the rest of the government, but Trump made this threat about Powell just last week. Listen.
Mr. President, on Jerome Powell, you said that the termination of Jerome Powell cannot come fast enough. He says he won't leave, even if you ask him to.
Oh, he'll leave. If I ask him to, he'll be out of there. But I don't think he's doing the job. He's too late, always too late, a little slow, and I'm not happy with him. I let him know it, and if I want him out, he'll be out of there real fast, believe me. Yeah, go ahead.
He'll be out of there real fast. Powell's term lasts until 2026, and he says he intends on serving it completely. But the White House says the president and his team looking at other options. Whether Trump can get rid of Powell or not, or whether he should, remains to be seen. But President Trump has made the point loud and clear that he's being proactive about the American economy and how it impacts you and me, all of us. Things are volatile right now. I can't make any crystal ball predictions, and if you're already invested in gold, then I imagine you're doing just fine. Good for you. We'll keep an eye on the economy and see what comes out in the next few weeks and see where we go from here. We know by now that many of the so-called experts like to yell fire before there's even smoke, so don't panic. The Democrats and rhino leaders have done a number on the U.S. economy and its position on the global stage, but President Trump is riding the ship. We'll see where it takes us. It's not going to be easy, I can tell you that. It's not going to be easy. It takes real work to get this done. Glad you're here today, by the way. Did you know scammers can literally steal your home right out from under you? The FBI calls it house stealing. It's a growing real estate scam targeting American homeowners. Here's how it works. Criminals will forge your signature on one document, use a fake notary stamp, pay a small fee, and file it with your local recorder's office. And just like that, your home title has been transferred out of your name. You didn't even know it. Then they can take out loans against your equity, as you've been building it for years now. You don't even know any of this is happening. They could even sell your home. And then you get collection notices. And then it's too late. Your home is a mess. That's why I trust Home Title Lock. Their $1 million triple lock protection helps keep your home and equity safe. Here's what you get: immediate 24/7 monitoring of your property, urgent alerts if there are any changes, and if fraud should happen, their U.S.-based team will pay up to $1 million to restore your title at no additional cost. You can find out more. Go to HometitleLock.com. Use the promo code Gruber. You're going to save some money, and you're going to feel good about it. HometitleLock.com, promo code Gruber. Do that right now. I'll be right back.